You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We have another wonderful story to share with you today in our adoption series here on The Coffee Hour. Just delighted to get to share another adoption story with you. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today are friends Kevin and Sara Skinner, who have worked with Lutheran Family Service to share their adoption story with us today. Kevin, Sara, welcome to The Coffee Hour.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the Skinner family, the history of the Skinner family before your adoption. Who would like to start that off? Sara, you want to start that off for us?
Sure, I can. We've been married 21 years, and we looked into adoption probably 15 years ago. And at that time, we were looking at an international agency, and rather than domestic within the U.S. And we had friends that adopted internationally and had a great experience. And so we had gone to an informational meeting about that, and it was intriguing. Our only holdback on that was the policy of that agency was that if you became pregnant after a match was made, they stopped the adoption at no matter what point it was. So you could have had the match, you could have been having your airline tickets or be ready to go pick up the person at the airport, and if you would have gotten pregnant, they would have ended it. And so we just couldn't do that risk because we knew we'd fall in love right away. And so at that time, we decided to continue to try to pursue some medical things. And so we both had different surgeries, and it took us about 6.5 years to get pregnant with our daughter, Allison, and she'll be 13 here pretty soon. So that's life before adoption.
Kevin, anything to add to that story about life before adoption?
She summed it up pretty well. We've been together for a long time, and we've had our struggles with infertility, which led us to go down this road, and then we kind of got a curveball thrown at us. We were actually taking classes, and it was our last class to get our foster care license to be foster parents. It was, or shortly before that, when we found out that we were pregnant. So
yeah, we had actually put a room together and painted it for a potential foster child, and didn't know we were pregnant.
So when did you start then thinking about adoption? What was the first step then in adoption? You mentioned potentially one agency. When did you get connected with Lutheran Family Service?
Well, probably about 5 years after Allie was born, we started kicking around the idea of adoption again. And so we were kind of silly and had let our foster care license drop. So not only did we start kicking around the idea of using an adoption agency, but we also went and redid the 30 hours of training and once again became licensed foster and adoptive parents. So we kind of had a couple different avenues to foster and adopt, and then to use a private agency. And we, back in 2014, the city of Carroll, Iowa, held a Real Fest. It was like an adoption festival where they were just promoting adoption, and adults that had been adopted as kids were coming and telling their stories. And they had different musicians here for King and Country came and sang at the soccer grounds at the local high school. And so that really kind of cemented it for us. We had kind of looked at online at different agencies, and it was really funny because at that festival, our pastor was there, and Kevin and I were going to get concessions or something, and he was talking to this woman, and it was Kim from Lutheran Family Services, and she had asked Pastor, we need some adoptive families. Do you know anybody in mind? And here we walked up and he's like, this is who I was telling you about. And we also had just received our packet in the mail that I had requested online from Lutheran Family Services. And so we were like, okay, God, we hear you. And so that just kind of cemented what we were going to do and ready to move forward.
Mm-hmm. What made adoption important for you at this point?
Kevin, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. We've always looked at it as, it's something that we've always wanted to do to add to our family. We love kids, but ultimately it's something that we're doing for that child, to provide them with a family. We have family members who have been adopted or who have adopted children. And as Christians, Sarah and I both believe, we're adopted by God into His family, and so adoption just seemed like when pregnancy just didn't happen for us again, it just seemed like a natural step. The next step would be, well, let's look into adoption. We both felt like we had love to give to a child, still more love to give. And so we just felt like it was a calling on our hearts to look into adoption.
What do you remember about your initial visits with Lutheran Family Service?
I just want to say it was so comfortable. It wasn't like we had our nervous jitters to kind of it was just a new thing to do, new people to meet. But the environment was so comforting and calming. And we had done some research online, so we kind of knew what to expect a little bit. And Jeanette was our worker, and she was just really compassionate. And what I loved is that it wasn't just, okay, you guys are the adoptive parents, but there's so much focus on the health and well-being of the birth mom and birth dad and and also birth mom after the adoption, and what is mom going to go through and how do we take care of her. And so I work in the field of social work normally, so I like that they had the whole picture. It wasn't just, we're here to help you find a child, find a family. It was to take care of everybody. And so that's what I really liked. And, we're members of our local Lutheran church, and we knew that at that time there was a local office 15 minutes away from us. And so we were just very comfortable. I don't know. Kevin, what do you have to add?
I would just add to what you said, that we had a great worker. She was just really nice, friendly, just so easy to talk to. She made it easy.
What did your daughter think about, or your first daughter think about, when you started talking about adoption? What did you share with her about considering adoption? Kevin?
She is just a wonderful little girl. She always wanted a sibling or siblings, and so she was very excited about it. It was something that I think she's also, she's very sensitive, and we tried to really be careful in how we talked with her about it so that we didn't get her hopes up, I guess. But I think she did really, really well through the whole process. Like I said, she was very excited. We kind of held back a little bit sometimes and maybe didn't tell her when there were times when, if we knew someone was looking at our adoption book or something like that, because again, we just didn't want her, to get her hopes up too much.
Sarah, anything to add to that?
I would just say, we pulled Allie into making like our profile book, which is what the birth parents were going to look at to see if we were the match for their child. And I remember she was doing art projects and building clay families. And so we were able to like scan those projects or take pictures of them and put those into our profile book to kind of give the family a taste of who Allison was. Um, and like Kevin said, she was very sensitive. And so we were very much aware of, she doesn't still at this time know the times that we got little nibbles where we thought maybe we were going to have a placement and it didn't work. Um, but some of those things fall through. But she is just thrilled, and she is a great big sister, and she was all for it. I think just the waiting was really hard, and in that time period, we had one foster placement, and it was heartbreaking for her to have that little person leave our home. And so um, he when Andrew came with us, I think she was always a little bit nervous about, is this for real this time? And I'll never forget on his, gotcha day, or the day we finalized it in the court. I remember, um, sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. Um, we left the courthouse and we got out to our car, and she just started bawling, and she was just like, he's really ours. And I'm like, yep, he's really ours. And so she's so thrilled. Um, she was 100% with it, and here we are 3 years later, and they're best buds. So
Sometimes. Most of the time.
most of the time, yes.
They're like any other brother and sister.
Yeah, as it goes with
They
siblings.
love each other.
What has that been like then for the last 3 years, watching your kids grow up together?
Oh gosh, it's been amazing. Um, they really are just like any other brother and sister. It makes no difference to any of us that Andrew is an adoptive child. It's almost as if he's always been with us. You know what I mean? When you have a kid, it's hard for us too to remember what it was even like before Allison was around. But they are truly brothers and sisters. They have their moments where they're annoying each other, but Allie can be such a good big sister. They love each other. They really do. They're best buds.
What a beautiful story. We need to take a quick break. When we come back from that break, we'll continue our conversation with Kevin and Sara Skinner, sharing their wonderful adoption story right here on the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Today we're talking with the Skinner family. We're talking with Kevin and Sara Skinner, sharing their wonderful adoption story from Lutheran Family Service and their beautiful story of how their family grew through the wonderful gift of adoption. Before we talked in the previous segment, we got to talk a little bit about that process, the first few steps of adoption. How would you describe the process of adoption? What was it like going through all those steps, and what was most challenging about that? Sara?
I think the process of paperwork and making your profile book is super easy. Figuring out how to finance adoption is a difficult part. It is expensive, and I would just really encourage families looking to adopt to really don't just sit there and think, oh my goodness, we could never afford it. Look at those agencies. Sometimes, like Lutheran Family Service has a grant program or some type of financial assistance that they can help with. There's other agencies out there that help with different grants. So I would just say, don't get so overwhelmed by that financial burden. look into ways to help afford it. Kevin and I, we luckily have an awesome local bank. And we were able to, our route that we took was to refi our house, but I won't forget that either. That seemed like a God moment. We went in and talked to our loan officer, and he said, well, I don't think we've ever done an adoption loan before. And he said, tomorrow's Tuesday, we have a manager's meeting and we'll discuss it. And Wednesday morning, we had all the paperwork in our mailbox. So we were very fortunate to have a small town bank that really, Adam or Andrew is theirs too. It's like it just really worked out well. So, what do you think, Kevin?
I think the hardest part, the most challenging part, was probably just the waiting part of the process, where they would keep us notified if someone, if they were showing our book to someone, and maybe we'd get a little nibble and think that maybe something was going to happen, and then it wouldn't happen. Just the waiting can be frustrating, but that's something else too, that for anybody that is considering adoption, or anybody that's in the middle of it right now that's trying to adopt, just waiting can be tough. But looking back, it's easy to look back now in hindsight, but we can see that everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. God was involved, and everything happened just the way it needed to happen. So just being patient. If we could do it again, I don't know if we'd be any more patient or not, but looking back, it was certainly tough at the time, but now we realize the waiting was worth it.
What was something that was maybe unexpected for you during this process?
Unexpected during this process. Well, it wasn't unexpected, but we had so much family support. And I think one of the hard parts was, I guess, maybe unexpected, was how many nibbles we got, but then it didn't go through. And so, that was kind of unexpected, how many times like our hopes would be up, and then, then it wouldn't happen. But like Kevin said, it all worked out the way it was supposed to. And so, but with our family support too, we don't always let them in on like, oh, we've got a nibble, we're supposed to find out in 2 or 3 weeks, because, some of that's just a private heartache you kind of have as a couple. And so some of those things were unexpected, but I don't know, Kev, what do you think?
I don't know if anything was unexpected for me. The way I went into it might have been a little different than you, Sarah, because my wife is, like she said, she's a social worker, and so she's and she works with children and parents a lot in her role as a social worker, and so she sees a lot of this stuff, and she's involved. She works, collaborates with people that are involved with foster care and adoption. And I went into this not having nearly the experience that she has. And so I kind of went in, obviously I was green. I had never done anything like this before. And I was just waiting to see what was going to happen. So I didn't really know what to expect a lot of times. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by things because I wasn't expecting anything in particular. I didn't know what to expect,
Who supported you through this process? You mentioned that you had a lot of cooperation from your local small town bank, but who were the other folks who supported you through this process?
Well, definitely, first and foremost, our faith in God. God was with us all the way in this. We can see so many things looking back on just God moments that kind of confirmed for us that we were doing the right thing. Our family, our church family at our local church, friends, both. We got a pretty wide circle of friends, and we have some of them that have been involved in adoption. They were very supportive, and even people that we work with that we shared our story with, coworkers, our employers, they were right there and supported us through the whole thing.
Anyone else to add to that, Sarah?
I think Kevin got it. I think that's right. Yep.
What was unique? Was there anything unique about this process for you, especially since you had gone through somewhat of the process early on? Was there anything that was unique?
Well, we had been on the wait list for almost 3 years, and I remember that January, Kevin and I sat down and we said, "Hey, okay, if this doesn't happen by June, because I was going to be turning 40, we were like, we're just going to withdraw. You know, we're just meant to have a one-child family, and we're just going to be, kind of done with the process and accept the family that God had given us." And towards the end of February, we got an email saying, "Hey, your profile book doesn't exactly match this family, but I'd like to show it. Would you be willing?" And so we said, "Yeah, sure. Let's do that." And then I think it was maybe the next day we got an email saying, "Hey, can you come out to Dubuque this Sunday and be interviewed? You and another family are going to be interviewed by this couple." And so we were like, "Yeah, sure, we can make it work." It was a 4-hour drive one way, and we had lots of bonding time on that drive and on the way home. And um, so, we left. We felt pretty confident. And that next day, Monday, we got a call. I got a call at like 12:30 in the afternoon saying, "You were chosen." And I just couldn't even believe it. If I remember right, Kevin, did I call you or did I leave work to go tell you? I can't even remember.
Can't remember. Yeah.
But I just know I must have yelled or something because my coworker in the room next door came over and was like, "You were chosen." I'm like, "Yeah." So, anyways, so then, well, we met Andrew's birth parents, and 19 days later, we had a baby in our arms. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
We
yeah.
were, it was wonderful. We were able to be there and, in the hospital with birth mom and the birth father and even some of their family members, their extended family. It was just a really neat experience to go through that kind of with them to a certain degree, and still have a good relationship with both of Andrew's birth parents, an open relationship, and it's just been great.
hmm
What was the time of frame like from the time you found out that you were chosen to that court date? What was that window of time like for you?
Oh, that was like, oh, well, Andrew was born March 24th, and his adoption day is December 7th. So we could have finalized in November, which would have been cool because it was, it's adoption month. But we couldn't get into the cycle for getting an appointment. So it was December 7th of 2017, and that was that was a long wait, even though we knew that it was going to go through. Finally having that done was such a relief. And um, Andrew's birth mom and dad, one of the coolest things they did is she asked us what his name would be. And so she immediately named him Andrew Skinner. So he's been Andrew Skinner from the get go. And the judge was like, "Andrew Skinner is now Andrew Skinner." And
Yeah.
so that was really a cool gift that birth mom kind of gave us, and was really kind of neat.
Hmm. How do you mark those special days? The day he's born, the day that he came into your care, and the day that he was officially yours by the from the court date. Do you mark those days with anything special?
Well, we always do typical, birthday stuff. And, what we really try to do is like, especially on birth mom's birthday and Mother's Day, things like that, I always try to make sure I make contact with her, or we have Andrew color a sign and we take a picture and send it to her. Just different things like that. We always try to remember birth mom and dad on all of those different occasions, because he's such a gift that they are sharing with us, and there's no thanks that can ever be enough that we could give them.
Hmm. What did you learn in this process, in the adoption process, that you would like our listeners to learn from your experience today? Kevin?
Yeah, I think just to pray on it, pray on your decisions, trust that once you pray and then you move forward and start making decisions, that God will guide and lead the way. And that's what he did for us. We took a leap of faith here. And looking back, I think, God, if we were going down the wrong path, then that's why things work out the way that they did. He either opened the door or he shut it. So just pray and then be patient, like I said before, and just like Sarah just mentioned, how wonderful the birth parents were, the gift that they gave us, just to remember them too, and that they're making a wonderful choice to adopt and to give a child a chance at life, and try to be compassionate towards them. And it's not an easy decision at all. We can speak from experience and seeing and getting to know the birth parents that it's not an easy decision to make. It was such a tough time while we were being so happy about it. It was a time of grief for them too. And just be compassionate towards the birth parents.
Sarah, anything to add to that?
I would just say that just know that your capacity to love someone is going to exceed your wildest expectations.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much to the Skinner family for sharing their adoption story, their beautiful adoption story with Lutheran Family Service. Kevin and Sarah, thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.